Hello, this is Miss McCauley, and this is part 2 of evaluating expressions using the multiplication properties. After you've finished watching part 2, please make sure you answer your questions in the note check.
Okay. And your very last property is going to be the distributive property of multiplication over addition and subtraction.
Multiplying is not hard if you distribute your numbers wisely. We can show the product of 4 times 7 with the area of a 4 by 7 rectangle.
Mr. Two, why do we have to solve problems this way? I already know the answer to 4 times 7. It's 28.
That's a good question, Trillian. Because you already know the answer, you'll be able to understand the distributive property model better. Then you can use it to solve more difficult problems. 4 times 7 equals 28. Now watch as I solve 4 times 7 in another way. I rewrite the factor 7 as a sum, 5 plus 2. Now we split the 4 by 7 rectangle into a 4 by 5 rectangle and a 4 by 2 rectangle. We can rewrite 4 times the sum of 5 and 2 as 4 times 5 plus 4 times 2. Now we're ready to solve the partial products. 4 times 5 is 20, and 4 times 2 is 8. 20 plus 8 is 28. So, 4 times 7 is 28, and 4 times the quantity 5 plus 2 is 28. And 4 times 5 plus 4 times 2 equals 28.
Does this show a property of addition? It looks more like a property of multiplication to me.
Actually, I've just shown a model of the distributive property of multiplication over addition. It means that multiplying a number and a sum is the same as multiplying the number by each part of the sum and then adding.
Okay, this is super important. I want you to write this down, what the distributive property really means. It really means that multiplying a number and a sum, which is the 5 plus 2, it's the same as multiplying the number by each part of the sum and then adding it together, adding the two products together. Once you've written that down, come back and press play.
Let's try another problem. Model and solve 2 times 7 by rewriting 2 times 7 as 2 times the quantity 4 plus 3.
Let me try. We need to start with a 2 by 7 rectangle. We need to split the rectangle into a 2 by 4 rectangle and a 2 by 3 rectangle. If you distribute 2 over the quantity 4 plus 3, you get 2 times 4 plus 2 times 3. Now we need to solve the partial products and then add. 2 times 4 is 8. And 2 times 3 is 6. Add 8 and 6. That's 14.
You got it.
Okay, I know that you're probably thinking, why do we have to look at these models? This is so easy. This math is so easy. Why do we have to do this? This is just showing you what the distributive property really means. And models can really help you visualize what is happening with the numbers.
In problem 1 of your lesson notes, solve 6 times 5 by renaming 5 as the sum of 3 and 2.
Okay, so I want you to think about how you would write this down if you were using the distributive property that we just talked about. See if you can try this in your notebook and see what you come up with. You want to think about 6 being distributed over 3 and 2. Come back as soon as you think you're ready and press play.
I need to distribute 6 over the quantity 3 plus 2. When I distribute, I get 6 times 3 plus 6 times 2. Now I need to multiply. 6 times 3 is 18, and 6 times 2 is 12. 18 plus 12 is 30. That means 6 times 5 equals 30. And 6 times the quantity 3 plus 2 equals 30.
You're right.
In problem 2,
I'm actually going to skip that and go right into the next set of notes.
Don't tell me. There's a distributive property of multiplication over subtraction.
indeed there is. Multiplying a number and a difference is the same as multiplying the number by each part of the difference and then subtracting.
Huh? I don't get it.
What?
Maybe an equation will help. Multiplying a number and a difference is the same as multiplying the number by each part of the difference and then subtracting. I think I get it, but I'm not sure.
Okay, go ahead and write this down. This is the last part that we're learning today, and that's the distributive property of multiplication over subtraction. And basically, it just means that distributive property works with multiplication and addition or multiplication and subtraction. And it's just saying that you can take a number and multiply it times a difference, which is the 5 minus 2 part, and it's the same as multiplying the number by each part of the difference and then subtracting. Okay, go ahead now and watch.
Maybe I can help with an example. Let's use the distributive property of multiplication over subtraction to multiply 6 times 19. Who can tell me how to write 19 as a difference of two numbers?
How about 20 minus 1?
Excellent choice. Now, Luria, how would you rewrite 6 times the quantity 20 minus 1 using the distributive property?
I'm going to pause here for 1 second and just say to you, you're probably thinking, why do I have to do this? The reason you might do this is, let's say that you don't know 6 times 19 in your head and you don't feel like multiplying it out long way, and you don't have a calculator or you're not allowed to use one. This is a way that will simplify the process for you.
Distribute 6 over 20 minus 1. That is 6 times 20 minus 6 times 1, which is 120 minus 6. And 120 minus 6 equals 114. Hey, I see why 20 minus 1 was an excellent choice. It's easier to multiply 6 times 20 and 6 times 1 and subtract than it is to multiply 6 times 19.
That's right, Luria. Multiplication is easier if you distribute your numbers wisely.
This distributive property is too cool.
Okay, hopefully you think so too.
How can we use the distributive property to multiply 15 by 38?
Okay, let's stop there actually, and let's go back to your good notes, and let's go ahead and write out the distributive property in a way that you can remember it. Okay, so first of all, you know that the distributive property works for multiplication over addition and subtraction. Okay, and what it says is, let's pretend if we have letters, okay, variables. A times the actually, and I'm going to erase that. I'm going to write this with parentheses. You know if you have a variable next to parentheses with no sign in between, that means to multiply. A times B plus C equals A times B plus A times C. Let's try it with a few numbers, just so you know what I'm talking about. 3 times the quantity of 4 plus 5 is the same thing as saying 3 times 4 plus 3 times 5. I like to put parentheses around these to keep it neat, and here's how it works. 3 times 4 is 12, 3 times 5 is 15, 12 plus 15 is 27. Let's see if that's true. 4 plus 5 is 9, and 3 times 9 is 27. So that worked. Okay, let me show you one more example. Go ahead and add another page. Okay, and let me show you. Distributive property. And let's write the example that I had before. A times B plus C equals A times B plus A times C. I like to keep parentheses around the two products to make it neat. Let's look at it with numbers. 3 times the quantity, 4 plus 5. This is how I like to think about it. Think about 3 wanting to go to a party, okay? 4 and 5 are already at the party, okay? 3 wants to go to this party, and 4 and 5 are already there. 3 is at the door to the party. The door is the parentheses. 3 is knocking on the door and has to ask 4 and 5 for permission before he can go to the party. So that's the same thing as saying 3 has to talk to 4, so 3 times 4, plus, keep that plus the same. Then 3 also has to ask 5 if it's okay. 3 times 5. Those are the same expressions. Let's look at it. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 5 is 15. 12 plus 15 is 27, which is the same thing as this original equation of 3 times 9, which equals 27. All the same, they check out. Good work. Let's try an example with subtraction. Let's do another example with subtraction. Okay, let's do 20 times the quantity of 10 minus 3. Again, think about the party. 20 wants to go to this really amazing party, birthday party, and 10 and 3 are already there. 20 is at the door, having to knock and ask, can he come in? He has to ask both 10 and 3. He can't just ask one person. He has to ask both. So 20 times 10 minus, now we're going to keep that minus the same, minus, and then 20 has to ask 3 too. So 20 times 3. 20 times 10 is 200, minus, keep the minus, always consistent, and then 20 times 3 is 60, and our final answer is 140. Okay, which if you looked up here, this would equal 20 times 7 if you subtracted, which also equals 140. So this can be helpful to us when we're doing long problems or difficult multiplication problems that we may not know the answer to in our head, or maybe we don't have a calculator accessible to us. So this can help us out. So this again is the distributive property of multiplication over subtraction. Okay, so distributive property works for multiplication over, distributive property of multiplication over subtraction. Okay, so one thing that is very clear that I want you to write down, okay, if you're trying to identify what property is being used, the distributive property always contains two operations. Distributive property always contains multiplication, I gotta write, it always contains multiplication and addition or subtraction. Okay? I hope you learned a lot about the properties and you can do great on your practice problems. Please don't hesitate to ask your teachers for help if you need it. The properties can be kind of challenging, so please ask us for help if you need it. Bye for now. Good luck on your practice.